Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. Today we're going to be talking to RJ Pepino. He is the founder of Cream, Cash Flow, Real Estate, and Money. He has also flipped over 500 properties, and he's the best-selling author of the book Game, Set, Match. In today's episode, he's going to be teaching us a unique method that he uses to build a real estate portfolio and get paid up front called the Pay Yourself First method. If you have any questions, put them in the box down below. As always, make sure you check out all the links in the description. And if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button and we'll see you on the inside. Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs. RJ, welcome to Founders Club.
Well, thanks for having me on here, Oliver. When I hear that intro, I'm like, man, I've done all those things. It's crazy to hear it coming from, from you or anybody else. And glad to chat with you, man. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, likewise. So I think the premise for today is going to be really about how someone can go out there and do their first real estate deal.
Mhm.
We have a lot of realtors that listen, along with investors, and so just getting in the game in terms of how realtors can get in the game of real
Yeah,
estate investing, and then also just how anyone out there can kind of do their first deal.
yeah. I think realtors have a really good, a unique advantage because they can add the element of potentially, if they can't buy the house from someone that they're talking to or helping to a client, then they can put the realtor hat on and potentially help them that way, which is great. And so I think when it comes to agents, just adding this investment side to the mix, um, it's just a very very complementary thing, and it's just changing their mindset about how going about the conversation with their seller. So you know
Yeah,
the conversation could go like this because we work with a lot of agents in our community that get on the investing side. Is that you have to disclose that you have a license, but really when you're putting out your marketing out there for motivated sellers, you can tell them after the fact, like, look, I'm you called me, I'm looking to buy the house, but there's also this other way where I can help you. I'm a licensed agent. I work with a lot of buyers that are looking for houses in distress as well. So it's complementary. And then you start opening their mind to that investment side, um, so that they have just another, vertical in their business to make money. And sometimes the investing side is more, interesting to them and they just do that more full time.
yeah.
But we have a
Yeah,
license.
the way we always kind of explain it or how we look at it is, I mean, every listing appointment is a potential investment deal if you can, get it at the right price. And I've told this story before, but just a quick 30-second version is just a few weeks back, I had an agent go on a listing presentation on a 3-unit building.
Mm,
And when he was asking kind of how much they wanted for the property and what they wanted to list at, he just threw out he thought it was a good price, he thought it was a fair deal, and so he just asked them, hey, if that's the price you're happy with, can I buy it at that price? They said yes, and they went in under contract, and he was able to get a great property at a really good deal, all because he had that kind of front row access and the trust built of already being, their real estate agent.
yeah, and so there's going to be deals that you're going to get because you already kind of have that posture of, the credibility of, like, you're working with a brokerage, and a lot of people already know that they're dealing with somebody who went out there and got their license and have the knowledge of the real estate background versus someone that doesn't have that. So you can look at it both ways. Like, there's a good side of having your real estate license and being an investor too. And we have a license in our group, and we rarely use it, very rarely use it, but it's there in cases like this would happen where, we're trying to buy their house, and really the best fit for them is to list it and get what they need out of the house and do all the things, and then we're helping the seller ultimately. And so that's our approach is, How can we help the seller? They're motivated. They contacted us. A lot of our marketing anymore is inbound. So they're calling us off of an ad that we had either on our website or Google advertising or a pay-per lead service. And, they already have that motivation. So we're dealing with motivated sellers all the time. But there's situations with that motivated seller that the best avenue for them is to go and list it. And so we're able to help them that way. And so, yeah, a
Yeah.
lot. We have a lot of realtors in our community that we show them the the investment side, how to flip properties, how to build their rental portfolio using our PYF method. So it's a beautiful thing to kind of see those two worlds of investor and realtor come together and make it work.
Yeah, for sure. So I really want to talk about how someone can go out there and do their first deal. I want to talk about finding it, funding it, and then exit strategies and all of that. So why don't we maybe start kind of at the top of like what should people be looking for to find their first deal?
Yeah. So I'm in Ohio, and Ohio is a way different market than California. Um, they're the laws of owning rentals are definitely pro the landlord, and if that is your strategy, but you still want to maybe invest in California, just definitely work with a property management company that knows the laws and knows how to handle tenants that aren't behaving, and um, that you can protect your investment. And so,
Yeah.
my preference is to be in a landlord friendly state, but that's what I know and I've always invested here. But if I'm picking a market, I'm looking at ease of doing business there, right? Ease of own an investment property. Now, if you're just totally a fix, if fix and flip is your model, then certainly you can do, the spreads in California on fix and flips far surpass the spreads here in Ohio. So it's give or take. And what I see happening a lot is when we were heavily a turnkey business, meaning we would create the rental properties and sell them to investors that needed boots in the ground operators in landlord friendly states that had the product. We were selling a lot to California investors, and so they would be making, they were high income earners in California, and some of them were fix and flip investors, and then they would put some of their profits into rentals. And if that's the case, then you could, do what you're doing in California, do the fix and flip model if that's the model that you're choosing, and then you could invest in states where it makes a little bit more sense from a buy and hold standpoint.
Hmm.
But first and foremost, you got to understand what's your capacity right now in the investment side. If you're heavily in the buy and representation side of the business and you're super busy, well, maybe it's just better for you to take some of those earnings and then go work with a turnkey company that you can be a little bit more hands off. But if you want to be more active in it, then you got to really, really rely on somebody that's boots on the ground, solid property management team that understands how to take care of you while you're, many miles away. Um, but it starts with that, like know your exit strategy, what you're comfortable with, because it's a time commitment. When you're building a rental portfolio, yes, it's not so passive that everyone kind of tells you it's passive. You still need to have some active attention to your business. Otherwise, it's going to fall apart, right? So first and foremost, know your exit strategy, know how you're going to go about doing it. Pick the market that you want, and then I suggest, this is my suggestion that you can get deals off the MLS, and they could be good deals, but the best deals are off market, in my opinion, from my experience. I've just gotten the best deals through direct to motivated seller marketing,
Can I
and
just add just one thing there? A couple things I thought were very interesting there is one, uh, you can do this in any market. It doesn't have to be in your backyard.
yeah,
To your point, you can do deals anywhere if you build the right team. And then you also mentioned there are turnkey providers out there too. So
yeah.
some people, they just have some money to invest, but they don't necessarily want to get their hands dirty working with a turnkey provider that finds the property, gets it, fixed up, puts a tenant in there, and manages it for you. That could be an option as well as you're, building up this portfolio.
Yeah, it is. And it really comes down to like how much time you have. If you are so busy, and we all are, we've got families, we've got, a job, or you have an active business that you're really involved in, or you're somebody that maybe owns a practice, and so you're super busy there and you don't have the time. So then a turnkey
Right.
company would make sense as you build that, right? And then as that uh, you know, um, rental income starts to build up and starts to free you up, then it slowly but surely starts to replace your other active income. Then you have a choice. Do I want to continue here or put all my focus here, continue to build uh,
Right.
that that rental
And
income?
the good news is you can also do both, right? You can do active deals and do that to like build up your cash flow or your cash in hand. And then you could place that with turnkey providers or you could do it yourself. I think the main message here is that there's lots of ways to go about doing it. And I like the way you're looking at it in terms of like what's the exit strategy? Am I buying this to flip it? Am I buying this to hold it long term? And then kind of reverse engineering from there, and then from there, once you've decided your exit strategy and kind of your market, what are the steps for like finding a good deal? What should we be looking for, and how should we be going about it? Hey there, I just have a quick favor to ask. If you're getting value from Founders Club and you're watching on YouTube, just give us a like, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. These things are free to do and it really helps the channel and it also helps us be able to bring better guests for you in the future. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, so we can go on and on about this, but from a to make a long story short, or to really understand what a good deal is, comes down to the end of the day, like your risk tolerance, because you can find a good deal that could be good on paper, but then when you actually are stepping foot in that market, it's a really bad area, and so some investors that I have talked to over the years of doing this, they really like these, I call them C-class investments. And their, kind of run rate with that investment is like 2 to 3 years. They're going to collect a high cash flow, and then they see that there's appreciation in that C-class market, and then they're going to sell. But I also run into investors that don't like to do that because they're thinking more of the long term, and they're also looking at how much is it to maintain a house in that particular area, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to hold on to it for 5 to 10 years, and then at the end of that length of holding the investment, maybe they want to refinance and do something else. Maybe they want to move into multifamily. So a good deal in my opinion anymore, because it's changed when um, we were doing this and we were borrowing private money at high interest rates, and then we had to go refinance it. You know, a good deal anymore for me is, a B class market where there's right before you get to the suburbs. Um, and I'm thinking of like pockets in my town where I can find good deals. They're all off market, and and then my preference is if the house can cash flow, on a after all the expenses, because I deal a lot with single families. If they can cash flow at least 350 minimum after all the expenses, including your factoring, your insurance, and your taxes and your property management and your vacancy and maintenance, then I think it's a good deal. And it's not in an area where it's really really nice and you can't make it cash flow because you just can in those areas. Property taxes are too high, insurance costs too high, and then the price of the house and the rent prices just don't add up anymore. So the call that price to rent ratio. It's just a fancy term of a house may only rent out for 200 thousand I mean 2,000 a month, and the value of that house is like 300. It just doesn't pencil out. And what you're going to see is when you go to refinance that, there's a debt service coverage ratio requirement from some of these, the banks that you deal with, and it won't make sense. So in that point, because that's where most of the suburbs are, you got to go right before the suburbs, which is I call those areas the path of progress areas, and you can still get those deals. And I play in a market where our after repair values are 100 to 200, and the rents can be a thousand to 2,000, and so that's the sweet spot for us. For us,
Mm-hmm.
now there
Mm-hmm.
are investors that I've come across where they're okay. They're okay with seeing a less return, and that's their. When I said risk, preference is they are okay with lower, internal rates of return. And that's okay. That's what they want. They want to be in a nice area. They don't want to deal with a lot of turnover. Okay, and they're okay with not that much cash flow, and that's okay. That's what
Yeah.
they want. And
No,
so
that makes sense. So it sounds like you're saying identify your market, and not just market in terms of like I want to be in this city, but market in terms of I'm looking for, A class, B class, C class, D class. I'm
mhm.
looking for outskirts of town or path of progress types areas. And then really getting clear on that. And then as you're kind of identifying that market, now you're able to look at properties and start finding good deals. Is that kind of
Yeah,
the
so you gotta I'm always thinking about the end in mind and what type of financing that I have in front of me. And a lot of my financing, we're doing a lot of BRRRR deals. We just have our own unique way of doing it because we use private capital. Um, it's it's paying ourselves an assignment fee on each rental that we do so that we can continue the acquisition side of that, and it covers our marketing costs. So we structure it in a
that's
way
that's
where,
very interesting. Yeah, can you break that down for us?
so for example, I'm just going to use that same example. The property is worth 200,000, right? And so I know my end financing, my refinance financing is going to be at 75% of that, ARV, 200,000. And so my all-in number is 150 if you take 75% of that 200. And so now I know what, and then that house is going to probably rent around 1850 to 1950 a month. And now what I'm going to do is, now that I know that just my minimum break even point is that 150, I'm going to go and get a really good deal upfront with that house. That's going to probably need a little bit of work. So I want to make sure that I can get it for, excuse me, I want to get it for like 80 and put 80,000, put 30,000 into it, and now I have my all-in amount at like 110,000, and I have a little bit of room from that 110 to that 150, right? And so out of that margin there, I'm going to structure the deal so that I can pay myself for finding that rental, for putting out the marketing, because I have, a team that's doing that. And also,
Mm-hmm.
I want to eat. I want to eat now. I want to have money now. And so I structure the deal in a way where I'm using none of my own capital. So I'm using private lenders, and my private lenders know what I'm up to. Super transparent with them. So then I will assign that deal to my buy and hold entity, because I'm keeping it as a rental, for like a $10,000 fee. Right now, I'm all into that thing for, 120, some change. So I have a little bit of wiggle room there for maybe some overages for rehab, because construction, moving target, something happens all the time. We're dealing with contractors. It's never always on budget, right? It's just never been that way. There's always something that comes up. So it gives me some flexibility in having to put a little bit more into the rehab. But at the end of the day, that margin is what you're going to keep, because that bank is going to give you a loan of 150. And so your margin from that, 120 to 150, which is 30, is tax free. Okay. I suggest you put that in back into your reserves for that rental, because people move out. They do.
Yep.
Wish they didn't, but that covers some of the cost of having to, clean it out, maybe have to repaint the walls, um, and cover some of that the cost, that's the turnover cost, the maintenance cost. And then with that, the rest of the money, it's up to you. You can reinvest that into maybe another rental, and you can scale from there. Because we did it the wrong way in the beginning. We were just waiting to get paid, and we were starving. We were trying to figure this out. Well, what it's all about our deal structure, and so that's why we call it the pay yourself first method, because you're the business owner, you're the one running the show, and your team's counting on you to make payroll, and so it's just all about deal structure. So that's how that came about, Oliver. Hopefully that made sense and it wasn't too high level, but
No, I'm writing that down. Actually, I really like that. So just to kind of break that down a little further. So you're saying you go out, you find the deal,
mhm,
then you are assigning that deal to your buying entity for a, let's call it $10,000 fee or whatever the fee is. So
mhm,
you're getting that 10 grand upfront paid to you. So
mhm,
right out the gate, you're starting to make money.
right,
Then the buying entity buys it.
mhm,
That on the buy side, you're using private funds.
mhm.
So I'm guessing you're paying them a flat percentage or a percentage of the deal.
Yeah,
And
you
then,
can set it up that way. We like to do accrued type loans. So at the end of their refinance, they get their points and interest. And typically a construction of 30 to 40,000 is taking us anywhere from 40 to 50 days to get done. So they're going to make a little bit. That private lender is going to make some interest. And then we structure it so they're making a lot of money. Our lenders, and we've raised a lot of money with private lenders over the years, and they're always coming back because they're just sitting there and pressing send on the wire. They review the paperwork, they know what's going on, and then they get paid, right? So got to
yeah.
pay your lenders. But at the end of that transaction, they're getting their principal plus their interest plus their any points, and then that conversation is, let's get it to work again. And so doing it this way, so that your acquisition company, right, then assigns it to your buy and hold entity. Now you get paid a little bit up front, and then the majority of that, of your, I guess your pay from that, because it's a loan, will come at the refinance, because you're going to be, we teach you how to get the best deals, and sometimes it's not going to be 10K, it might be 5K, right? It might be 6 or 7K, depending on the deal. We're not all about like getting all of that equity up front. We just make it more incremental so that you can keep the marketing going. You can pay yourself a little bit, and you kind of keep this building of the portfolio business going. And so there's, when you're doing a wholesale deal, or an novation deal, a little bit more advanced wholesaling, and then you're doing a fix and flip deal. Well, those have a 40 to 50 to 90 day, 120 days sometimes, um, days on market, or life cycle, or cash conversion cycle. That's what I call it. And you can cut that by structuring your deal this way, where you're getting paid to buy rentals, right? That's
Mhm.
basically what you're doing here.
No, I love that, the pay yourself first method. I think that's brilliant. And then just one other thing you said there that I think is great is taking really good care of your investors. Like the more money the more meat on the bone you can leave for your investors, the easier it's going to be to raise money, the more money you're going to get, the more repeat business you're going to get, and the more other investors are going to get referred to you by the investors you already have. So definitely love what you're doing there. And
Mhm.
then just to bring it full circle again, so you fund the deal with the private money. They give you enough to buy the house and do the construction. Then once you go through, you do everything that you do in terms of like rehabbing it, getting it rent ready and all that. Then at that point, you're putting a tenant in there, getting it refinanced, and then kind of completing the Burr method, and getting all the cash out, paying off the lender for the loan of the property and the construction, plus their meat on the bone, and
Mhm.
then you're getting what's left over and the cash flow moving forward.
Yeah, this is the for residential, and you actually you see this a lot in the in commercial, where there's a acquisition fee. They call it an acquisition fee. And we saw
Yeah.
that and we are like, we can do it with the singles and you can do it with the small multifamily. You can do this in all the deals as long as you just be upfront. And there's good reasoning. It's not that you're trying to do a one over on your lenders. It's, there's marketing costs. There's, if you have an office, you have overhead. And so this allows the whole operation to stay cash flow, positive, and you keep all the operating expenses to the account, because you're actually going to need that when you go talk to a bank and try to refinance with them. They're going to look at your reserves. And so
Yep.
this is a great way to keep the accounts healthy as you're building this, as you're, building this rental portfolio. You're paying yourself. And so that was a big aha for us doing this for many, many years. Was we were waiting until the very back end. And there was times when we were like, we don't have any money in the account until the 15th, and it's the 7th. It's like,
Right. Yeah.
we really
Yeah.
we're hoping and praying this all works out. You know what I mean? So just a little switch on how to structure the deals has really helped us. And so
I love that. I love the pay yourself first method. I want to stick on that. So let's talk about finding deals that are a good fit for that type of a real estate deal.
yeah, so in terms of what we do for our marketing, we do a lot of PPC marketing. Okay.
Okay.
And so, we have our Google ads that go out, and they are motivated sellers, motivated enough to actually click on our website and put in their info. And then we have an acquisitions team, lead manager, acquisition manager, and then we also have a dispo manager, because not all deals that come through that channel are ones that we're going to keep. And so we got to monetize those deals. And so there's a definitely an active part of the business. Now when I say active, it's not, it's, in the beginning, yes, you got to do the things, you got to call, you got to set up the deal, and we show you how to do that. But after you get some consistent closings, then you can get some help. It starts with help on the acquisition side. That's what I would start. And then, once you start, you can go and build from there, right? But from a deal standpoint, our best deals are coming from off market motivated sellers. And then behind that motivation, we just had a town hall meeting. A lot of the ones that we're running into have inherited the properties, and they just don't want
Mhm.
to do anything with it. And so you can actually purchase certain lists, and we have done all the marketing channels. So we've done direct mail. We're actually going to have a small direct mail campaigns, very just a small niche list. We've tried cold calling, TV, um, text blasting, and ringless voicemail. All that works. They all work. Some of them have longer cash conversion cycles from when you get the lead in until you can actually exit out of it and get paid. And the best ones are actually the channels that I just shared with you. It's PPC, and now this we use PPL, pay per lead. So there's companies out there that will put out all the marketing through YouTube and all these sites that they buy, and then they sell the lead to you, and they could be
Mhm.
anywhere from $75 to $700. If I'm doing marketing in California, the cost per lead there is a lot higher. It might be 2,000 to 3,000, but guess what? At the end of the day, if you are flipping that property or turning that into a rental, which I'm doing, if I got a property in California, I'm probably going to try and quick flip it or wholesale it. But those are really big spreads, 80 to
Mhm.
100 to six-figure spreads there. And so it just depends. But the way that we're finding these type of deals is through those two channels right now. However, we've also bought properties from agents who that we've created relationships with. We have deals coming from our students now. We have a Facebook community that also meets face to face. So we've got a bit of a presence now in our community, and everybody knows what we're up to. So you can certainly still buy from wholesalers as long as it still fits your model. Now, you might not be able to pay yourself a lot upfront on that, the pay yourself first model, but be okay with that because you didn't spend that much money on the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's give and take. So instead of 10K, you might be able to take maybe 2 to 3K, and the rest can go to
Yeah.
that wholesaler,
Yeah,
right?
no, I think that makes total sense. And to your point earlier, it's still better than not getting any money up front. Um, and
Right.
I love all the different marketing methods. And to your point, like they do all work. Just figuring out what works and sticking with it, I think is the key. Is the consistency part. And then it sounds like you're having a lot of success with the pay per lead, the pay per click, all that kind of stuff. So that's great. And then so once a lead comes in, talk to me about how you're presenting the offer. Obviously, I'm guessing you're coming in fairly low. I don't know if you have a percentage or a formula or kind of how you approach making your offer and talking to the seller about it.
So now we have a team which we train a couple times a week on, we review their calls, and then we do comp trainings. We do seller objection trainings, but our team follows a process, and our sales process is clearly defined. It's not anything that's like rocket sciences. It's very simple. Ultimately, the people that you're going to be talking to already have motivation. They have to. I mean, they're
Right,
putting their info in a
right.
filling out a form, and they're coming in motivated, right? And so it's just really understanding where they're at, um, and setting the stage that we're here to help you. Like, we're honestly, that is our main focus is, what's your situation, what's going on with the house, why are you selling, what is your time frame, and letting them know that the first initial call is getting all of these details, because I'm going to present this to, we always use our finance department, underwriting department. That's part of our process. First call
Mm,
is setting the stage, just so you know, this is how our process is. We work with sellers that need to sell. I just need to have a couple more minutes with you to understand what's going on with the house. That first initial meeting with my, call it the underwriting department, and with that, we can come back and kind of discuss what your property qualifies for, and when we have that process, and there's that third party that, and it's not you, you're like their advocate. My goal is to make sure that I can get the best offer for you and what fits your needs. So it makes that like low ball offer not so freaking low ball. It's just what your property qualifies for. And so you're in this position where you're not this like greedy investor. You're trying to
I
help,
like that.
and it's not you, that's, you're just kind of the messenger. You're gathering the notes, you're going to the underwriting department, and then you can kind of go back to them and say, hey, this is what your property qualifies for, based on your timeline, based on what your motivation is. And so we have a whole script down,
I love that.
and
It's
that's
like, hey, it's not me. It's not me. It's the bad guys in the underwriting department, and this is what your property qualifies for.
right. And then if they, because we have calculations for max allowable offer, and we don't lead with a max allowable offer, we lead lower than that. And then out of that, if it just doesn't make sense for the cash offer, then we present to them other offers, which typically is going to be, what everyone's calling, novation. We call it protect your equity program, and they like that because they're in this motivated state. They can't, they're calling you because they don't want to go that route of hiring a realtor, because they don't have the time, and then they don't have the 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 resources to put, work into the property to get it up to the stand, to some sort of standard, to get it listed. And so you can go either two ways. Now, if you're an agent and the house is in listing status, then you can kind of take that conversation and go the listing route. Well, just
Hmm.
good news. Cash offer didn't work out, but guess what? I can still help you. Now, it's going to be this way, and then you work out the whole listing route.
Yeah.
Our team goes the protect your equity route, and this is like an innovation play where it's still kind of like the cash offer. You're not going to be paying all the fees and then this and that, but it's going to be in front of our network, which now it sets it up so that now you can do, the novation, but it's going to go out to our network of agents and their buyers, our internal
So
buyers.
real quick, just so that everyone's on the same page, talk to me about that option of the novation and what that is, so everyone's clear.
Yeah, so innovation is basically it's just a term that says I'm going to replace this contract with something else. That's what, if you look it up in terms of like real estate terms, that's what it really, it's like you're replacing a contract.
Mm,
Okay, but what you're really doing, and how we present it is that we are going to work with our agents and their buyers, and they're using these different kind of loans that they're all just conventional loans. What you're really doing is you're taking that property and you're putting it on the MLS, and you're working with buyers that are going to be using conventional FHA, USDA, VA loans, and use that to buy their house. And you're using an agreement. We use attorney and fax, and sometimes in different states there's going to be different um, paperwork that you're going to have to use, right? So I'm just telling you what
right.
we do.
Yep.
So you just got to check and make sure that the paperwork works in your area, but you're essentially partnering with the seller, because that's what you're doing. You're saying, I will give you this price. So if my cash price on that 200K example that I gave you, if my cash price is 80K and they're like, I really need 120, then what I'll tell them is like, look, I can give you the 120, but I'm going to work with my, agents and their in-house buyers over here. I'll take care of all that for you, and it's more of like a white glove service that we're going to provide you. But in order for me to help you, we need to sign this agreement that allows me to do all of those things for you. And you're taking care of all the agent's commissions, any request to remedy, anything that comes up on inspection. And let's just say that you can put it on the market for 170, but after agent's commissions and all the requests to remedy and all the things that you had to do to get it kind of to a point where you can put it on the market, all that's going to come out of your end. But at the end of the day, your seller gets the 120 that you said that you were going to get them, right? Net. And then that spread from 120 to 170, you have to pay the agent's commissions. There may have been a, you know, new roof that you had to put in, or um, maybe some electrical, maybe some plumbing. We a lot of times what we're doing is, some flooring work, paint, trashing it out, making it smell nice, taking some really nice pictures, um, and then just putting on the MLS.
I love that. Yeah. So essentially, they're just becoming a partner in the deal
Correct.
in that option, which is
You're
cool. I love that.
yep, you're working
Um,
with them and helping them out. I think that's
yeah.
just the best way to even go about doing that technical, like, wholesaling strategy anyways.
Yeah. It's a win-win for everybody.
Win-win for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And then you mentioned, new roofs, new this, new that. How are you going about on these deals, estimating your costs, and then figuring out, kind of what needs to be done to make these make sense?
Well, anymore, we know what like the prices are in Ohio, and in other similar markets to Ohio. We work with agents that are boots on the ground in the market. So the only other market that we're doing this in is Texas right now, but we're looking for another market that is actually going to be on the West Coast, because we know the spreads are um, they're just bigger there. But what's really going to help you in this strategy of novation is having a strong real estate agent that knows the market, has connections to contractors there, can get you estimates, that's worked with investors that know what you're up to, and you know want to make a lot of money with you, because they're going to get the 3% or whatever is negotiated, and they're just helping you out. And then you can tell them, look, I'm looking for deals also that I can do this again, or it could be a buy and hold play.
Yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah.
pay them
What
on
I'm hearing is
market.
it sounds like it comes really back to knowing your market again, which we talked
Mhm.
about, and then building out that team of people that also know the market and can kind of help you with connections and different things like that.
Yeah, and where you can do that is, everybody's on Facebook anymore. There's real estate Facebook groups out there. Join those Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
Get in and network and start talking to
Yep.
other investors. So there's some work to be done before getting into a market. Join mastermind groups. The reason why I'm talking to Oliver right now is because I've, invested a lot in my network and my, in my own education and all this. And masterminds have been a key thing to help me grow. You're going to find people in masterminds in other markets where you can tell them like, hey, look, I'm going to be doing this here. Is there a value add play that I can help you with anything in Ohio? I need some help in California,
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so there's power in that. And I'm always in a mastermind. I'm in a new mastermind this year, so invest in your
Yeah,
network.
couldn't agree more. The masterminds have been invaluable for us as well. Just the connections and the relationships that you make in those things are generally always going to be more than what you pay to get into the group.
Yeah.
But I also love what you said there, and this is totally free. Is just joining those Facebook groups. Like every city in America has, the San Diego real estate investing group, the Ohio real estate investing group, the this city flipping group. And there's been countless times where I've gone into those types of groups and said, hey, I need a plumber in this area. Who do you recommend? And all of a sudden, you're getting, 30 to 50 comments of people that are referring people. And it's just a great resource to find, contractors, realtors, even cash investors, all of those types of things. And it's totally free to do.
Yeah, it's free to do this. Social media is free. You can even post in your social media and somebody knows somebody there, right?
Yep.
So that's yeah, that's what we've done, and um, it's amazing. It's amazing what Facebook can do for your business anymore, Oliver. It's evolved, and it's like that's how we grew our own local Facebook group. Was just that we were connecting agents to contractors, contractors to investors, investors to agents, investors to deals, and then it just starts growing like a wildfire. It really does.
Mhm.
There's like
Yep.
there's close to 14,000 members in that group, and we just started that like 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's
So
awesome. Yep.
it's
Yeah.
wild. It's wild.
No, that's a great resource. And then, so sticking on this, pay yourself first method,
Mhm.
what are the things that, pieces of advice that you would give to someone that was like, yeah, I really like this idea. I'm gonna go out there and give it a try. Pardon the quick interruption, but if you're looking for a little extra help growing your real estate business, make sure you hit the link in the description below to book a one on one consulting session where I will personally help you take your real estate business to the next level. Over the last 15 years, I've grown a brokerage to over 1,000 agents in multiple states, consistently doing over 4 billion a year in sales, and we've been on the Inc. 500 5 times. I would love to personally help you reach your business goals and have the best year you've ever had. Book your session today, and now back to the podcast.
So again, it goes back to when I first started. We were talking about this. Is you got to know like where you want to do this.
Hmm.
I recommend you start with understanding where you can do this model and where it works well, because you're basically buying rentals. Is in a market where you can manage the properties effectively. If somebody's not behaving, you can quickly get them out and find a new tenant. I like the Midwest markets, but there's also some good markets in the Sunshine States. I'd like to pick markets where the rent to price ratio still makes sense. 1 to 1.5% rule applies here. Uh,
Yeah,
you got to
that's
go.
what I was just going to say. Is I think that finding the rental to price ratio is going to be key to
Huge.
this strategy,
It's
because I'm
huge.
not sure I would see this working in like a Southern California where we
It's
live, but in places like you just mentioned, Ohio, the Sun Belt, the Midwest, there's still plenty of places where this does work. And as long as you're able to find a good agent, property manager, and contractor, you can really kind of do this anywhere.
Yeah, and this strategy also works for fix and flips. So you can do this strategy in Southern California, but it really works well if you just be upfront with your lending company or your private lender that hey, these I've got a little bit of staff, and I want to capture some of that flip equity up front, and I do it and I structure it this way because you can do this on fix and flips too. We do this all the time where we assign it to our fix and flip entity. We know we're going
Mm-hmm.
to do it. I just know that it eats some of that back end equity, but you are just leaving some room for you to have some breathing room up front. So it can work with fix and flip deals as well, just as long as your lender knows what you're doing and you're upfront. It's harder to do it with some hard money financing out there. Um, a little bit tricky because then you got to put your private lender in a second position, and then sometimes hard money doesn't like to know that you're using some second position on the loan, so you got to kind of do that after the closing. But it can certainly be done creatively that
Mm-hmm.
way. But yeah, when it comes to buying and holding rentals, you got to be thinking, like Oliver was saying, end in mind. Who's going to be your team? Do you have agents, boots on the ground? Do you have somebody there to check on your rentals and collect the rent and all that? Is super important. And also to manage your construction, because that's how a moving target. So a property management team or real estate agent can go a long way in those markets that you're investing out of state. Um, and I
Love
would
that.
suggest that you go and for the first 10 deals that you're doing, go visit the property, even if it's only once a month, but check. Or nowadays, Oliver, you can hire there's companies out there like Investor Boots, giving a plug for Steve Cohen. There's Investor Boots that can go out there and go out and do these inspections for you.
And tell me what that is. You said investor boots, like BOOTS.
BOOTZ, Investor Boots.
Okay.
Boots.
And
Uh,
what do they do?
they do a lot of things. They can go out and do lock changes. They can go out if you're doing a wholesale deal. They'll go out and show the property to your buyer and make sure the buyer is not trying to snake the deal from you. Fortunately, that happens. They can do quick inspections. They can take pictures. They can do some coordination of cleaners. And so Investor Boots. So if you're
Love that.
needing boots on the ground by just a phone call away, that's Investor Boots, and they have the whole
That's an
website.
awesome resource. Yeah, for sure. Any other tools, softwares, apps that you love for helping you in your day to day on this kind of stuff?
So we recently we were using Investor Base, and this is more or less some knowledge in areas where maybe you put out some marketing and you get a really good deal, but it's more like a secondary, tertiary markets, and there's not a lot of data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Investor base, well, actually, it's more of a dispositions tool, but and how we use it now is it helps our acquisitions especially in areas where there's not that much familiarity for us. We don't use any, like, we still use, to be honest with you, we use Zillow to comp our properties. We still have the MLS in certain areas, but we use Investor Base because Investor Base will give you knowledge of what other fix and flip investors are buying properties for, and buy and hold investors are buying property for. So you kind of get a quick glance at the market activity there. And if your underwriting is telling you that I think I'm just gonna have to flip this thing, well, it also gives you the contact, that information of who bought that property, what price, and it matches your property that you have to whoever is the best buyer for your property.
Mm.
So it's twofold. It allows our acquisition team to see, hey, what kind of activity is there? What do we really need to get this property for, so that we have a highly likelihood of selling to that investor who bought this property for. So you kind of create your spread there. So, for
Yep.
example, you have a seller on the line and 123 Main Street, but it's in an area that you've never really done business for, and you use this tool, it'll tell you that buy and hold investors are buying this property for 50. And so now you can, if you're intent there because you don't have boots in the ground there, and you're like, well, I want to monetize this. So now if I can get this for 30, I can probably sell it to this LLC that bought it for 50. That makes sense? So give
Yeah,
you some insider kind of information to give you a clear path on what your exit strategy is going to be.
I love that. And what was that one called?
That was called Investor Base. Amazing tool.
Investor Base and Investor Boots. I love it. Very cool. Well, as we start to wrap up, one of the things I always like to ask people is just kind of in 60 seconds or less, what does it take to be really good at this pay yourself first method for building a portfolio?
Mm. Well, in order to be in this game, okay, real estate investing, first you have to have you got to have the work ethic, but more importantly, it's imperfectly taking action.
Mm,
It's really that. Like the faster you can take some action, even if it's not the right time, it's not and you're not feeling the right way. Like it's never going to be perfect time to take action. You gotta do it now. So it's like
mm,
you deal with other investors that are like, well, the interest rates are at 7, I can't buy. No, you can still buy. You just need to buy a little bit better, and you might have to sift through some more deals. And maybe right now you're doing an active strategy of maybe fixing and flipping, or if just wholesaling. But out of that action taking and doing it, imperfectly, you're going to get better. You're going
mm.
to get better every single day.
Yeah.
You get better. You
Yeah, I
know.
think that's great advice. Just start doing it, and it's like riding a bike. No one gets on a bike and just starts riding down the street.
Yeah, no one
You know,
does.
you get on the bike, you roll a little bit, and then you put your foot down. Then maybe you roll a little bit and put your foot down, and each time you get a little further and a little better, and next thing you know, you're riding your bike down the street, and just like this, you're doing deals and making money.
Yeah, you're gonna make that first phone call. Yeah, it's not gonna be your best, but guess what? You did your first phone call, then you do your second, then you're at your 100, then you're at your 500, then you're at your 1,000, then you're like, I can just talk like this all the time.
Mm,
Like I never, I did my first podcast, 3 or 4 years ago, and was I perfect? No, I didn't know what to say. Now it's just I can just talk and be myself.
yeah,
You just get better, just like anything else. But
yeah.
that of all of our students that have seen massive success in less than 60 days, it's people that took the knowledge that we're sharing, Oliver and I are sharing with you right now, and went and tried it without even any direction really. And they tried it, and then maybe they saw success, maybe they didn't see the most success, but they at least tried it, and now they can move around and get better at it and go about it a different way.
Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
imperfect
So,
action, and then like we said earlier in this call, pick up pay yourself first method on a rental portfolio works really good in a market that's landlord friendly. Just letting you.
mm, love it. Awesome. Cool, RJ. Really appreciate it, man. How can people get a hold of you, learn more, connect with you?
Well, if they're watching this, they can text me at that number, and then they can follow me on Instagram. I'm there first, and then I check my Facebook and my TikTok. But text me, let me know how I can add value to you, and follow me on my socials. I do have a book. If you go to rjpepino.com, it talks about how I got my start in this, and basically it talks about me, playing tennis and making that shift from tennis, having almost a career in tennis, to getting into sales, and then reading a book that changed my life, and then pursuing real estate investing and everything else in between. So, um, happy to connect with you. If you thought this was valuable or you got an aha, then that's amazing. That's amazing. Now take that knowledge and get to work and put it to
Yeah,
action.
most definitely. And for those that are just listening and can't see it, the number is 614-810-4622. And he is at RJ Pepino, Pepino, on all of the socials. So definitely get out there, connect with him, learn more, start getting paid to build your rental portfolio. And as always, check out the links in the description below. And if you like money and you like real estate, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, RJ.
Thanks, Oliver. Talk to you soon.